Good evening, everyone. Wherever you are watching from, you are welcome to Brainboss Learning Consult platform. I'm your regular host, Mr. Maro. Today we'll be talking about an interesting topic, which is called surds. Many of you might have heard of surds. And what are surds? Surds are actually irrational numbers. When I mean, like I said, we'll be talking about surds. Surds are irrational numbers. Examples of irrational numbers, we are having like root 2, root 5. We have like pi, which you call 22/7. So on and so forth. We can have root 7. All these are irrational numbers. Now, before we talk about irrational numbers properly, let's talk about rational numbers. Now, what are rational numbers? Rational numbers can either be numbers such as integers. Of course, you know that integers are positive or negative whole numbers. For instance, rational numbers can be rational numbers. They are positive or negative integers. For instance, it can be -2, it can be +2. Rational numbers can also be a mixed number. It can be an improper fraction. It can be a proper fraction. All these are all rational numbers. Now, let's go back to irrational numbers. So what are irrational numbers? Irrational numbers are actually the opposite of rational numbers, meaning they are very difficult to deal with when it comes to mathematics. And the best way to deal with them is using surds. So, surd is a critical part of mathematics. When we come back from this break, we'll be diving straight to the rules of surds and their manipulation. I'll be right back. You're welcome back. Like we were talking before the break, that irrational numbers are very difficult to deal with when it comes to mathematics, hence the introduction of surds. Surds help you solve irrational numbers. I'll be looking at it. For instance, when you are talking about root 2, root 2 will give you, I think, about 1.41421. Just, it goes on. So you can see that irrational numbers are difficult to deal with. So how do you deal with root 2, which is equals to 1.41421? It's cumbersome. And we can have this multiple in each question. So it becomes difficult to deal with. But with the help of surd and its rules, they become very easy. Quickly, let's go straight to the rules of surd. Now, what are the rules of surds? Number one, we're talking about the multiplication rule. We're talking about the multiplication rule. In the multiplication rule, we can have something like this: a times, okay, let's say ab, which you know that it can also be a root a times root b. Note, root a plus b is not root a plus root b. Please take note of this. We need to take note of this properly, that root a plus b is not the same thing as root a plus root b. So we can pick an example. We can pick an example to say 100. Okay, let's pick an example to say 10 times 5, that can be root 10 times root 5. So this is an example of multiplication. So this root 10 times 5 is the same thing as root 10 times root 5. The same thing as root 10 times root 5. So we can check an example. Let's say let's say 75. Root 75. Root 75 can be the same thing as 25 times 3. Root 25 times 3. So what we do basically is that you get a value which is a perfect square multiplied by another value. It's easy that way. So we can break it down. That's root 25 going by this rule, root 3, and you'll be having what? What's root 25? That's 5 times root 3, and that's 5 root 3. Simple, isn't it? So with the help of Surds, we have been able to deal with this irrational number. So we'll be talking about the division rule right away. In the division rule, we can say that root a divided by root b is same thing as root a over root b, which can also be root a over b. Please note again, I will always give you this note. Note again that root a minus root b is not the same thing as root a minus b. It's not the same thing as root a minus root b. We must take note of this. They are different things entirely. Please. Now, we can picture any example. For instance, let's just deal with something like this. Root hundred over root 100 over let's say 5. That will give you root 100 over root 5. And what's root 100? That's 10 over what? Root 5. And that can be 10 and over root what? Root 5.